for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
Why are you trying to get the U.S. to intervene in South Africa's internal affairs?
Well, so in the first instance, we're not particularly trying to get the US to intervene in affairs. We are lobbying internationally, just as the ANC itself lobbied internationally when it had the differences with the apartheid government. And fundamentally, we're an organisation that's existed for a number of years. We are fighting for something that is constitutionally permissible, it's legal, and it's something that will improve the lives of the Western Cape people significantly. And ultimately, we've been advocating for Cape independence for a number of time. We've engaged with many of the political organisations, including the presidency, including the Western Cape Premier. So this isn't something that's new. We want to have a referendum held in the Western Cape to allow the people of the Western Cape themselves to decide democratically, would they like to break away from South Africa? Is that the solution that they collectively want? Or do they want to remain in South Africa? And we have to understand the backdrop of that is since 1994, the majority of Western Cape voters have never once voted for the ANC, and they've never once been governed at a national level by the government they voted for. So what does Cape independence deliver? It's not some scheme that's behind the scenes. It's really simple. The people of the Western Cape are not being governed by the party they vote for, and Cape independence would allow them to be governed by the party they vote for. And I think that should be understandable for anybody in a democracy.
Yeah, and I really think, Phil, there's fundamental differences between the ANC that negotiates with other countries during a time when there's apartheid in this country, and an organization like yourself that's trying to appeal to the conscience or the influence of other countries outside when there is no necessarily persecution. Apartheid was different times. Of course it required that the ANC speak to countries outside.
Well, of course, these things are all very, very subjective. Now, apartheid was worse by a degree, but here we are in the Western Cape. The majority of us are ethnic minorities. We're discriminated against by government legislation. We're suffering chronic unemployment. We have, our lives are getting worse. We're getting poorer. So actually, this isn't something we should just write off because the ANC isn't quite as sinister as the National Party. I happily concede that, but the South African national government has performed absolutely terribly, abysmally, and people are suffering hugely. And we want to find solutions. We want to find democratic solutions. So we don't have to be absolutely as bad as apartheid to say, well, look, hang on a second, there's a problem here, and we're perfectly entitled. And actually, I'll just correct you on something. You said we haven't asked the president and the premier and the minister for a referendum in 7 days. What we've said to them is we want to go overseas. We believe we're constitutionally entitled to do so. But actually, out of fairness and transparency, we're writing to you to say, if you want to suggest that we're not within our legal rights, you've got 7 days to say so. And tellingly, none of them have, because we're not outside of our rights. We're perfectly entitled to go and do this in a democracy.
Okay, so I'm glad you realize that they